hospices. Ought to be building the aftercare and the child care facilities and the dental clinics. Free of charge. Doesn't exist. Are there Christian roaming dental clinics that go into communities and give free dental care to those in need? Are there? Are there blood banks who go? Are there food banks? We don't have one. We can't even afford a trailer. Most of us can't even afford a yarmulke to put on top, a menorah to put on top of it. What's wrong with this picture? Yahweh's work done Yahweh's way never lacks Yahweh's provision. We're either not doing it His way or we're not doing His work. Look at verse 15. Romans 2:15. Is anybody enjoying?
Oh yeah.
Let's try that again. Is anybody enjoying?
Oh yeah.
Look at verse 15. They have an inbred Torah which shows the work of the Torah written on their levim, written on their hearts. Listen. Their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts will either accuse or either excuse one another or themselves. Notice their inbred Torah either excuses their lack of Torah knowledge and detail or accuses them. You miss that. The inbred, what's another way to say the inbred Torah without knowing the Torah? What's another way to say that? The Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit will either excuse their lack, meaning they don't have a Rabbi Moshe, they don't have a Tehillah, they don't have a Julio, or someone to teach them the way more excellently, or to give them the knowledge of how to obey Yahweh more excellently. So it's a matter of obeying Him more excellently. Hello? So the inbred Torah keeping, it will either, listen to this, look at verse 15. I love this. I love this. Look at this. Will either excuse their lack of Torah knowledge or it'll accuse them. Based on what? Based on whether they obey, don't miss this, the inbred Torah. You understand this, Rachel? When the inbred Torah or the Ruach HaKodesh tells them to feed the homeless, to put their finances in a nursing home or in a hospital, or to help the needy, to do the Torah, their lack of Torah knowledge, they'll be excused. That's what it says. They will be excused because they just wanted to, if they would have been taught properly, they'd be keeping Shabbat. Hello? If they'd be taught properly, they'd be keeping the Moedim, right? If they were taught properly, they'd be wearing a head covering, right? So it's just a lack of teaching that's holding them back from obedience. But the fact that they're doing the Torah proves that they want to do the right thing. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying everything we stand for is now gone in one message. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there are people in the church that are caring for my daughter who are doing the Torah, and because their inbred Torah is not accusing them, but is excusing the fact that no one has been able to reach them for whatever reason with the methodology of living out their faith, but their inbred Torah will accuse them or will excuse them. You understand what I'm saying? How about that wonderful boarding school that's taking care of my daughter? They're doing the Torah. If they weren't doing the Torah, she'd have no home. Where would I send her? Do you really think? Can we talk? I don't mind sharing my personal problems with you.
Do tell.
Does anyone in this room think that if there was a Nazarene Israelite Torah-keeping boarding school for girls, that I would send her to a Christian boarding school? Does anyone think that? I wouldn't do that. But guess what? I got the same problem you got. Ain't nothing happening. But we're sure learning how to rock. Some of the most mean-spirited, some of the most nasty, unforgiving, unloving people in bondage who do the Torah. But when we finally get a group to feed those who are victims of the hurricanes in the Gulf Coast, we can't deliver the products. Why? Because we can't buy a box truck with a refrigerator. Why? No one has the money. I don't believe that. If no one has the money, then Yahweh's not in this movement. How come the church that doesn't do the Torah, Shabbat, Moedim, how come they have the money and we don't have the money? Either they're doing it right and we're doing it wrong, or it's because our vision is not his vision, our Torah keeping is not his brand and his kind of Torah keeping. How come they have all the money and we don't? And don't blame the Catholics, because the Catholics don't send Baptist money and the Catholics don't send the Protestants money. They barely talk to each other. I don't receive the fact that 750,000 people in the Nazarene Messianic movement don't have enough money to buy a refrigerated truck to deliver food to the victims of the hurricane. I don't believe it. I don't receive it.
Get them. Sick them.
Our brand of Torah keeping is an abomination to Yahweh. And the reason I quit the union, and you can go out and tell it, and you can even call everybody for all I care, and send them this tape. See if I care.
Get them.
I'm not ashamed of my convictions.
Tell it.
Because if you don't stand for righteousness, you'll fall for any unrighteousness.
That's right.
If you have nothing to say to the people, how are you going to build a vision in the people to go out and do what the church does? You know why we're not doing what the church is doing? Because our leaders don't think it's important enough to admonish our people to do these things. I don't believe we don't have the money. Our leaders, not the sheep, our leaders don't believe it's important enough. Baruch Hashem now. Am I angry? You bet. At lethargy,
Spiritual lethargy.
like leprosy, lethargy, inactivity for the truth. Verse 16, in the Yom when Yahweh will judge the secrets of man by Yeshua HaMoshiach, according to my Besorah. Rav Shul says that those who do the Torah, according to Matthew 25, and those who know the Torah but don't do the Torah, Yahweh will judge the hearts according to the truth of the Besorah. Go to Romans 3:9. Is anyone enjoying?
Amen.
Other than Greek, is anyone enjoying?
Amen.
Give Yahweh a clap offering, amen. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Romans 3:9.
Tell it.
What then? Are we, Nazarene Israelites, Yehudim who study the Torah, who have Torah knowledge, da'ah, are we better than them, the nations, who don't have Torah knowledge? No, we're not better than the church. Are we better than them? I used to think we were. I used to think we were. We're not better than them. We're not better than them. We just break it in a different way. We just break it by not doing it, and they break it by not knowing the right methods to do it. But we just ignore it altogether and claim it in the name of studying. The word Yahweh says, much studying without doing it will make you mad. Rav Shul was accused of being crazy because he studied too much, but see, because he put the gospel into action, he didn't stay crazy, even though he was accused of being crazy. Well then, are we better than them? No, in no way, no way, no way. How can that be? The nations who don't do the Torah, and we Nazarene Israelites, and Messianic Jews especially, we are in no way better than the nations who do not have knowledge of the Torah? No, in no way. For we have proven that the Yehudim, the Greeks, the Arameans are all under sin. There's your problem. It's sinning. It is not whether you have Torah knowledge or whether you don't have Torah knowledge. Hello? The church has no Torah knowledge, right? They sin. How do they sin? Because they don't guard the commandments. They don't know how to please Yahweh and His methods, His days, His time. We sin, on the other hand. We know all the days, all the times, all the calendars, all the peripheral issues. We're perfect in having the peripheral issues down perfectly. But when it comes... Would you please call me when we build our first hospice? Would you please get in touch with me when we build our first hospital? Well, they say to me, Rabbi, you're being too hard on our movement. I was told a long time ago that I wasn't welcome in Messianic Judaism.
Oh, no.
You know why I was told I was not welcome in Messianic Judaism? Because they said I was guilty of doing something known as spanking the movement. And anyone that spanks the movement automatically becomes a persona non grata.